Right? Let them stand there for the whole class. The Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. Those 4 letters embody concepts, right? You know, like we don't even say the name, right? It's an awesome name. Most kids, when they're trying to read Hebrew at the age of 2, 3, 4, or 5, they say, Yehovah, and then the teacher or the rabbi or the mother or the daddy says, no, 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 Adonai. Don't say what's written there. And they don't understand, like, why, but okay, from that moment on, they see one thing and say another. And it almost becomes like they don't see it anymore. You know? They don't see it. And yet we have to see it. It represents a level of being, of existence, that's behind the screen, behind the veil of what we see with our eyes. And here in the vertical array of it was my favorite. It helps me so much. This is what we say with our mouths, but what we think as we go up this ladder. So the fact that there's embodiments of 4 main ideas. So when I was teaching Derech Hashem by the Ramchal, so he breaks up his book into 4 sections. And the 4 sections correspond to the 4 letters of God's name. The first section is about the existence of God, the unity of God, and the idea that God is not just one somewhere in the distant space, the galaxies. He's not somewhere far away. That's not what it means that God is one. You know, like really, you have to ask yourself, what is the Jewish conception of God? Oh, so we say, God is one. Well, what does that mean? What do you say? What does it mean that God is one? What's the progression of ideas involved from the simple to the sublime? What does it mean when we say that God is one? First of all, people say, well, it means there's only one, there's not 2, right? Okay, fine. Let's go from there. Let's think for a second. He's one. What do you want? What do you want more than that?
One that influences and determines the source of everything.
The source of everything. Can we place him or it in space? Does it have spatial dimensions? Anything that we can put our finger on? No. Ho, interesting. You could even say that God doesn't exist, because he's deeper than existence. Existence, I play with it a little bit in the Hebrew. It's the letter tzadi. It's lehotzi. It's to bring forth something. Yetziat Mitzrayim. Nimsa is something that is found. It's also something that exists. Nimsa. You find it. Did it exist before you found it? You found it? Yeah. That's not really the direction I want to go. But I want to just say here that being is deeper than existence. In English, at least. Being is deeper than existence. Is deeper than exists. Because exist is like exit, extricate. It's bringing forth from some prior state. At any rate, God is deeper than existence, and that's why God's oneness is an all-encompassing, permeating oneness. At a certain deep level, there is only his oneness, and everything else is a necessary illusion of separation in order to give us a chance to live our lives. But at those deep levels, what we can go back to, even now, before Mashiach comes, that we can connect to the deep oneness and merge into that oneness, like a drop in the sea. And then God will spit us out again and we'll say, wow, that was great. I didn't know who I was. I didn't exist. The subject-object dichotomy was collapsed. There's even a halacha on Shabbat I love so much. Forgive me. So you have what's called a kumkum, a hot water thing that's on the fire. And we can either pick it up or we can have one with a spigot. Right? Let's say it has a spigot. It's on the fire with something in between to make sure we don't change the fire. We open up the spigot and it's flowing into this cup. This is called a Kli Rishon. And in Gemara and Tosafot in Daf Mem Bet in Shabbat, a Kli Rishon, a first degree vessel is defined as a vessel it's so hot that the walls are hot, and therefore even though the nature of heat is to is to dissipate, but here it's turned back in itself, and it's constantly reheating. That's a first degree vessel. When this is being poured from the spigot into the second cup, into the cup here, the cup is a first degree vessel. As the flow, it's called the kiluach, a miklachat is shower. So as the flow is coming in, this is a first degree vessel. The moment the flow stops, it's a second degree vessel. So I said, wait a second. These halachas are like not only what you think they are. There's something going on here. A first degree vessel, subject, no object. Second degree vessel, subject and object. I mean, in other words, distinction. First degree vessel. Prophecy is a flow into a human being. When that human being is receiving that prophecy, his mind is absolutely connected to the divine mind, and it's completely disconnected from his subjective existence, his subjective thoughts. And Ramchal describes this, Malbim describes this, others. What the prophetic experience is. We have it in the book of Daniel, where he falls on his face because the angel appears to him. And it's just a fantastic scene. I actually have it read here, written about it, but I don't want to go too far astray. Anyway, so then when the thing is turned off, when the prophetic flow is turned off, we return to ourselves and we say, that was really good. I don't know where I was, but that was like... And I now have things, as the Ramchal says in Derech Hashem, impressed in my being. I know what I got. I know something about what was just given to me. But when it was happening, wow, amazing. And then there's another law, one more just before we go back, is that I have if this is now a ladle, and I put it in hot water. But water and books don't go together. And I put it in hot water, I dip it into the hot water, and it comes out filled to the brim with water. In the water, it's a first degree vessel. Even when I take it out, it's a first degree vessel, at least for a while. Wow, that's the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu. Mm. He receives prophecy, and even when he's not in a state of prophecy, it's what's called Shechina medeberet mitoch grono. The Shechina speaks within Moshe's throat. He becomes a channel for godliness. So I don't know how to say all that's involved in this, but I just love that concept here, and I give it to you.
What's that? What happens when you let go? What happens to Moshe Rabbeinu when he lets go?
God never lets go of him. He becomes a shining being. His skin becomes from or to or, from or with an ayin to or with an aleph, and that goes back to Adam Arishon, that he was or with an aleph. He was a light, a being of light, and then when he did what he did, which is a whole year's course, come to Jerusalem, he became or with an ayin, or a skin. He became a physicalized being. That's the coalescence of energy of the level called Yetzirah into Asiya, into physical existence. The coalescence of energy into matter. And so there's a midrash that says that part of the visions of the sages who loved talking about the future in tall tales, they say there's going to be a tournament between a leviathan, which is an aquatic creature, and a shor habar, a wild ox, also called leviathan. And they're going to have a fight to the death in this big stadium in Jerusalem with all the resurrected who are resurrected after Mashiach comes. And King David is going to have a table in the middle of this stadium, and Moses and Sipporah and Devorah and Solomon and all the great tzaddikim are here, and Adam and Eve, and in the stands are all everybody else. God willing will be there. But they have this strange contest between the Leviathan, which is a land creature, and this dragon-like character with a tail like this, called Leviathan, the Leviathan. And they're going to fight to the end. And when the ox is going to gore the Leviathan with its horns, and then with its last breath, the Leviathan is going to sweep its tail across the neck of the ox, and they're going to both fall dead. And there's even a midrash that says, wait a second, is that a kosher shechita? We learned in the Mishnah that it has to be smooth. This is like this. So the rabbis are nuts. Like, they want to give over deep information, so they're using this type of... They didn't have physics. They didn't have the language of physics. They had tall tales. But within the tall tales are profound secrets, as you'll see in a moment. So they ask if this is kosher. They say, yeah, it's kosher. It's kosher. And so that we're going to make the wine. King David is going to make the kiddush on the wine. What's called the yain hamishumar ba'anavav misheshet yemei bereshit, the wine that is preserved in its grapes from the 6 days of creation. That is going to be good wine. And then we're going to have some manna, right? And eat that. And then we're going to have some of the flesh of the Leviathan, like some pickled herring type stuff that we do nowadays. It's a hint. Ashkenazim have the idea. Pickled herring. Because that, yeah. And then there's going to be so much of that, they're going to put it out to the shvakim, which is plural for shuk, to the marketplaces of Jerusalem, and it's going to go international. Already 1,800 years ago in the Midrash, they're talking about international marketplace, that you can have Leviathan meat being shipped to other countries. And the skin, they're going to make a sukkah out of it. You've heard this. And there's going to be so much skin that they're going to roll the rest of it around the walls of Jerusalem, and it's going to shine from one end of the world to the other. It gets more crazy as you go. And so the Gaon of Vilna said, Im nivreti, rak b'shil zeh, if I had been created, not just born, just for this midrash, dayai, it would have been enough. Because here is or, the skin, or with an ayin.